Welcome to another episode of Insight Sessions. And today I want to ask you if you've ever heard of family or systemic constellations. And if you have, does the idea of them feel strange to you and maybe even a little woo-woo? And I get that because even after doing this work for about 5 years, I sometimes still get surprised by what happens in a family constellation session. And today I want to use this time to demystify the process and show you exactly what it can look like. Uh, when I heard the first time about family constellations from my therapist, the name actually confused me too. And I thought that they are somehow connected to astrology. And being a scientist, I was quite skeptical, to be honest. I realized that this name is probably unfortunate because it does not fully depict what happens in a constellation session. And many people relate the name constellation to constellation of stars. But what is usually meant is how different people within a family system relate to each other and how they constellate a certain dynamic or an entanglement. So, family constellations were invented by a German psychotherapist, Bert Hellinger, and over their long existence, they have been molded and spiced up by other practitioners. And in the video descriptions, I will leave links to several resources where you can find out more about the work of Bert Hellinger and many others. Um, I want to say that family constellations are neither magic nor supernatural, but they are hopefully a safe enough space where we can have a corrective experience in relation to the images that we carry within ourselves, even if sometimes the external relationships that we have with some of our family members or coworkers do not change. So first, let's answer the question, what are family constellations? Family constellations are a therapeutic, experiential way of exploring your challenges by looking at them within the bigger systems that you are part of, especially your family system, because that's where many of our patterns are coming from. But these patterns often repeat in many areas of our lives, in relationships, in works, in friendships, without us realizing that. And what happens in family constellations is that instead of just talking about the problems or the issues that we are experiencing, what happens is that we are setting up a living map of this field using either other people, if we are working in a group, or figurines to represent key parts of you, of other people, or even feelings and dynamics like guilt, like fear or love. So I want to say here, if you remember the law of physics, which says that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can just shift from one form to another. This is a similar thing that happens with the energy of our family fields. Because if we pretend that something does not happen and it doesn't exist, it doesn't make it disappear from our consciousness. And if there is something painful or hidden or forgotten in our family systems, maybe it's a secret or a loss or a difficult emotion, it does not simply vanish. And instead, that energy shifts and finds another way to express itself and often becomes a symptom that many people come to family constellations to actually look at. And often this way, these symptoms shows up in you and in some patterns or feelings that you simply cannot explain. You might feel like you're hiding something from yourself, but you're not really sure what that is. And because the energy cannot be rejected or repressed, what happens is that still some parts of the systems are quietly asking to be seen, to be understood, and to be honored. So what I want to do now is to show you how it might look like when you are coming to a family constellation by using one common example, which is the example of a parentified child. As someone who from young age has felt responsible and caring for their parents, and as an adult, they might struggle to rest, they feel constant guilt, and they fall into cycles of burnout. So I will now take these figurines, which, if we're doing one-on-one, which would be something that we will probably be using. Um, but if we are in a group, this will be people that are representing you. And what happens is that if you're coming with a problem of kind of having a sense of guilt, not knowing what to do with it, not knowing where it comes from, what we would do is for the beginning, we will set up yourself and we will set up the feeling of guilt. And what happens is we give enough time for the representatives to get into their roles and to just slowly start feeling themselves in that role. And this is often where it becomes very eerie how similar they become to what you are experiencing. And this is where sometimes people say, oh, it really is magical because somehow you start seeing in front of you, your eyes, something that is very, very, very similar to you. And this is because we as humans, we have, first of all, we have mirror neurons, and second of all, we have some resonant experiences. So basically, when someone uh, is kind of being in the field, they are feeling something that you are unconsciously or consciously carrying, and they become that part. And this is maybe the most difficult part of the family constellations to explain. And I would definitely invite you to come and to really experience that. But once that we give them that time and space, there might be something happening for these two parts that we have set up to represent something in the field. The guilt, for example, might say something like, I feel like something is missing here. I'm looking for someone else, almost as if it has a job that it cannot quit. And what we would do then, as the constellation unfolds, we might introduce another representative, a representative, for example, for the thing that is missing. And we will allow space and time for this representative to set in themselves, to just feel themselves. And it might look like this representative is very far away. It's actually not looking at you, and it's looking somewhere very distant. And when we ask you or the person who is representing for you who they are and what do they represent, it might be that they would say they're representing your mother, for example. And that she, instead of facing you, she's looking into this distance. And maybe she says that she's looking into her own pain, into her own losses, or perhaps a sibling who has died young. And then when we ask the part of guilt, who in this case actually looks like a child, what's going on here and what's going on for them in this moment, what happens that this part, without words, without anyone explaining it, has unconsciously decided to step in, to take care of the feelings of the mother, to try to fill in this gap of absence. And this is where the family history of parentification often appears. And in constellations, we might see that your mother was once a parent of her parent, and that this has been a pattern that has spanned across generation, quietly repeating until we are the first one now being able to see it. And when these representatives are in the space, and I will put them down right now, the truth becomes visible. And basically, um, this is our attention is we can see that the attention is not on the work or on the partner or on your own life. Your attention would be fixated on your mother and how you could never fully reach her or get through to her, or how no one has actually seen the pain that she has carried. And this is a very powerful moment in family constellations because it's not about blame, it's about recognition. And once you see where the pull is, you can begin to give back what was never yours to carry, and you can take back your own place within the family system. And this is where I really want to pause and explain, because and explain what's going on here, because this is where uh, it's very difficult to reach with words. This is a space which is very difficult to reach with words very quickly in classical forms of therapy. But since it's being unfolded in front of us this clearly, what happens is that we're not just talking about something, we are witnessing. And in the actual constellation, what is also happening, we are following the movement either of your representatives or of your own, if we're doing one-on-one. And this body movement is actually the part that we have never got to experience, which is the part of how do we repair what has been um, damaged or broken or entangled or not seen or not visible. And this movement often goes into a sort of a shift, and we never know how this shift is happening and how it is going to happen. And this is something that is being unfolded in front of our eyes very slowly in the process of the constellation. And it is this experience, with the emphasis on the word experience, that makes the whole difference. This is what breaks the cycle when we manage to have a new experience of an old pattern. And um, in addition, if the constellation is done in a group, it's not just this one person who is having this experience, but it's also the other participants that are working on the same issues can be moved from the inside and moved by the field. And they might get something out of it too, because they might have come with a similar issue. And this is how the work of one becomes the work of many. So now that I've briefly explained or tried to kind of touch or give you a feel of how a constellation session might look like, I want to address several other questions that you had for me on my small Instagram questionnaires. First, I wanted to address why is it so difficult to describe what happens in a constellation? And we often hear sentences like, "Oh yeah, something shifted in me," or I didn't find out anything new, but I did feel something new," or "I'm not sure what happened, but I feel much calmer." And this is because the experience the person had has shifted something deep within the fabric of their being. And often these shifts are really ineffable. We cannot encapsulate them into words. And this is where the process requires trust. It requires willingness to experiment and willingness to take some risks. And this is also why I believe that it's very important that these processes are facilitated by experienced practitioners who have some training in the trauma and mental health field. Because many people are afraid of family constellations because they think they will find out something that will shock them, and that something that they will have absolutely no control over. And it's true, constellations can give us, they are powerful, and then they can give us powerful insights and powerful experiences. And that's why the person who leads them really matter. So I want to speak a little bit about what you need to search for in a person who leads family constellations. So you need to know that this is a person who is able to create safe enough and emotionally regulated spaces and be able to support a person who is going through something painful or something confusing. They need to be able to practice and supervise their intervention and to be able to distinguish symbolic from literal meanings that emerge from experiences. Because sometimes we can have a symbolic subjective experience that if we would think it's true, it might be very, very misleading for the person who is experiencing the constellation. Also, they need to be able to set boundaries and to be able to help you distinguish what's yours and what is someone else's, because we don't want you to be carrying someone else's stories home. And lastly, they need to be able to support you to do some level of integration so that you don't go shocked, but to be able to connect what you've experienced with some of the everyday life. Because these processes don't often change, they don't necessarily need to change external relationships, but they can massively influence how we internally feel about them. And we don't heal only because we understand what has happened to us, but we heal through repeatedly experiencing what safety, love, and care can actually feel like. And family constellations can really provide these corrective experiences. Lastly, I want to speak about who family constellations are for and who they might not be for. And also, what people who don't know much about family constellations often think why they shouldn't be going to constellations. And some people say that they don't think they have a big enough problem to come and try a family constellation. And they might think, oh, I have my sadness, but it's nothing I can't handle. It doesn't really bother me. And they don't seek help because they don't feel like they need fixing. But they might be drawn in if they realize that you don't really have to be broken to get something out of the family constellation. So I sometimes encourage you to just um, be led by your curiosity and experience them. And sometimes there are people who are very skeptical, like I told you I was in the very beginning. It seems unreal, it's very new agey, and not so serious. And constellations can actually, like, I hope that with what I've talked about, you can actually see that constellations are a symbolic map of our relationships and feelings that we are projecting outwardly so that we can understand ourselves better. There are also some people who have um, fears. They don't know what happens in family constellations, and that scares them. Sometimes you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't really want to cry in front of people or to hear something strange. You fear that you might be exposed. And this is where, as I mentioned about the practitioners and the importance of having good practitioners, hopefully you will find some who will create these safe enough spaces for you to know that you can come as you are and be able to still get something useful from this process. Some people actually are stopped from coming from to family constellations because they just cannot explain exactly what's bothering them. You feel confused, but you really cannot name a clear problem. But I have to tell you that this is often a sign that you could actually benefit the most from family constellations. And it's enough that you simply say, something's tight, something's bothering me, but I don't really know how to put a finger on it. And some people have just tried everything. They're sick of everything. Tired of quick fixes. And again, constellations are not miraculous, but they are something that have that have the ability that words and analysis and coachings cannot reach. So sometimes if you've really tried everything, constellations might be just the thing that you have needed because they are able to go beyond the verbal and use more the bodily experiences and experiences of other people. Uh, and some people don't come to constellations because they worry what will happen after them. I don't know what to do. What if something really big comes? And I don't know how to return to normal life. And this is a really important thing that I want to say, that you will not be left alone afterwards to carry everything. There will be some space for integration. And for example, in my constellations, I always send integration emails to which people can reply so that you can have a sense that you haven't just opened the black box and now you don't know what to do with it. And so I want to say that constellations are for people who feel like something is weighing on them, even if they can't quite put it into words. Maybe you keep finding yourself in the same kind of relationships, or you're running up against exactly the same challenges at work. No matter how much you try to change things, maybe there's a heaviness in your chest, and when you wake up, you don't really know what to do with it. You have a relentlessness that you just cannot seem to shake off. Or there are some emotions that seem to appear out of nowhere and they just don't make sense. Um, and this is something that can help you to disentangle all of these things. And constellations, they are also for people who have already tried talking things through with a therapist, with a coach, with their network of people who they're doing personal growth with, but you still feel like something's missing. So you understand the why, but somehow nothing has shifted the way you feel. And constellations work in a different way, not just through what you're thinking, but through our minds, to our bodies, to our hearts, where sometimes words cannot fully reach. And they can help if you grew up feeling that you had to take care of others before yourself, if there are things in your family that were never spoken about but somehow still weigh on you, or if you've been carrying grief or responsibility for so long that you cannot remember what's like not to. And they're also for anyone who's simply curious about why certain things in life feel so stuck and want to see how their inner world connects to bigger systems that they're part of. So you don't really need to arrive with a neat, clear problem written down. It's really enough to say something feels off and I don't know what it is. And that's where the work begins. Constellations are not for people who are in acute states of trauma. So they need to be somewhat stabilized before we can do any constellation work. But other than that, there are not many side effects that I can speak to very much. So just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, constellations are really not for the select few. They're for anyone who is ready to explore the deeper layers of what they're feeling. They're in a space that's safe enough and respectful. And if you're still hesitant after all of these, what I'm saying, I really want to reassure you that you will not lose control or be forced to reveal something that you're not ready for or to be left feeling unsettled afterwards. You are the one who is controlling and choosing how deeply to go. You decide what to share, and your boundaries should always be honored. And I try to really always honor them. So, if you have been carrying something heavy, repeating patterns that you can't quite break, or simply wondering why certain things in life feel the way they do, this work really offers a safe enough space to explore it and gently shift what's going on underneath. And when people feel seen in their stories, when they realize they're not alone in their struggles, when they trust the person guiding the process, really fear begins to soften. And that's where curiosity can take place. And from that curiosity, really healing has room to come. So, my hope is that what you've heard here has sparked a little bit of that curiosity in you, enough to take that first step and experience it for yourself. And sometimes all it takes is one new perspective to open a door we didn't know that was there. So, with this, I would really want to invite you to a family constellation workshop that I'm organizing every month. And it's imagined to be a series of monthly one day weekend workshops where we constantly nurture this space and we go through and work through different topics like relationships, money, relationship with our parents, relationships with our homelands, uh, relationship with love and understanding what love is for us. And I'm hoping that with creating this space to slow down, to integrate, to move through, and to move with the how Bert Hellinger would call it, the spirit mind. My hope is that you will start to slowly integrate constellation work and the work we're doing together as a way of living rather than just another technique that you're going to fix yourself with. So with this, I want to leave you with this, and I want to tell you that I'm open for questions. And so if there's anything that has been left unexplained or unsaid, you can find my contact in the comments below. And as I said in the beginning, I will also leave some links with resources that you can further and deeper explore this topic. Thank you for taking the time and looking forward to guide you on some other videos.